Another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo for this Sunday. I can't tell you what a great weekend this is. It's opening weekend of Major League Baseball. This is when all the optimism with fans in baseball get it going. You think your favorite baseball team has a shot to win the World Series. You get all the fans going on a weekend, and you got nothing but popcorn and hot dogs in Major League Baseball. But also, we have teams that are trying to jockey to get to Indianapolis when it comes to the Final Four. I mean, there is no question. The Final Four and the NCAA tournament is clearly one of the greatest events in all of American sports. You know why? You talk about the ultimate underdog. You talk about the ultimate opportunity for you to go and win a national championship and for you to make your stake. There is no doubt that this tournament still exists with that same option where you get a chance to go as far. We saw Butler years ago end up going to the finals 2 years in a row. You don't get that in college football with the 12-team tournament. You only get that in the NCAA tournament, and you get that without a doubt with teams jockeying in the Elite Eight and also getting to the Final Four here. How about Arizona, man? They punched their ticket, beating Purdue 79-64. And Arizona, the most complete team probably in the NCAA finals now, right? Two teams that punched their ticket to get to the finals. That is indeed Arizona and Illinois. We said this all year long. There have probably been three teams that really are the complete teams: Arizona, Duke, and, of course, Michigan. You got an opportunity here to watch this Arizona team earlier in the year. They end up getting knocked off by Kansas, but without a doubt, backcourt, up front, coaching, depth, everything. This Arizona team, for the first time in 25 years, is back in a Final Four. One of the absolutely legendary programs that goes all the way back to Lute Olson. With how they built this program, this looks like an old-school Lute Olson team. This looks like a team that, again, has all the components. Perimeter shooting, big dudes underneath. That is a large basketball team, and they punched their ticket to Indianapolis, one of the two teams that have already made it to the Final Four. How about Illinois? Illinois has never won a national championship. 71-59, they stopped the miracle run of Iowa, who knocked off that Gator team down in the South region. Iowa did a great job with their perimeter shooting, but Illinois, man, all the youth on that team that they have, I mean, Illinois has to be one of the easy stories of the tournament so far when it comes to surprises. I mean, look, we said this team and maybe Iowa State. Who are they? Nebraska, too, fell in that room. And you sit there and you go, who is Illinois? With all the youth, I think that's one of the things that people were saying the whole time was that Illinois, I mean, with all the young players that they had on that basketball team where they would be able to step up when the lights were bright, and they surely did. Boy, I'll tell you something about the Big Ten this year. You could make the argument the Big Ten is clearly the best college basketball conference in all of America by the style of play. Having these teams ready to play, look at the Elite Eight, look at Illinois and how they were prepped to play, and now they punch their ticket to Indianapolis as well, and they get a shot at playing for a national championship. They have never won a national championship there in Champaign, and I'll tell you, boy, that was an impressive ball game that they did yesterday. And their perimeter, their bigs, everything, the way that they handled the perimeter of Iowa's shooting from the outside and also Iowa's bigs, Illinois looks like a team that could go on and win themselves a national championship. Okay, so let's do this here. America has spoken. Okay? America has spoken. You know what that is? We love hoop. And you know where you get that? America has spoken. We love the NCAA. We hate the NBA. NBA ratings are falling through the roof. Why are the NCAA ratings going through the roof? You know why? America loves the sport of basketball. They hate the NBA guys. They hate the NBA for guys like this. Luka, suspended one game for picking his 16th technical foul up. Hey, dude, maybe that homeschool stuff that's going on with your own life and your kids and all are starting to affect you a little bit. Nobody likes these NBA guys. Hey, how can you be so repelled to have ratings just plummet? What it load management? How about this one too? You got a rule, a 65-team rule, a game rule, where that you have to force me to play so that I could potentially win a Defensive Player of the Year award or an MVP because of load management? Hey, I never in my entire life ever remember, and I'm going to sound like, oh man, get off my lawn, dude, that I don't ever remember Michael Jordan or any of those players in the past saying, hey, guess what? Load management. I got back-to-backs. You know, Jordan had a clause in his contract, the love of the game, which meant this. They couldn't sit him. Doug Collins or Phil Jackson couldn't sit him. You know why? Because Jordan had a love of the game. How in the world did the love of the game get squeezed out of these NBA guys? I am more convinced than ever, okay? America loves hoop. 10 million people per game are watching the NCAA tournament. You know why? It's fun. The kids are playing with great energy. It's passion. It's tears of joy. It's tears of sorrow when you get beat. It's love of the game. When I watch the NCAA tournament, I'm watching the love of the game. You know, when I watch the NBA All-Star game, I'm like, dude, you mean I got to push you to play hard? Holy cow. Where in America do we support anything like that? I watched Joel Embiid the other night play. I was watching a guy who was a fat snow cone on the court. And I'm watching a guy who makes over $60 million a year look not engaged on playing with his basketball team. How in God's name do you get me to want to watch an NBA game? I'll tell you this. The NCAA tournament has sold me. The NCAA tournament is always going to sell me. You know why? It's love of the game. It's the sport that keeps bringing Americans back. Hey, and don't tell me it's gambling that brings you to the NCAA tournament. It's gambling in the NBA. Americans have spoken. They clearly have spoken when it comes to showing you it's not the game of hoop. It's the people in it. Hey, Adam Silver, you got quite a task ahead of you. You want to expand into Las Vegas and Seattle with what? Players that kind of care? Hey, I hate to do this. I got the legendary Dan Dakich coming up here in the next segment, but I hate to do this. You ready? Wake me up in June when you're in the finals. Wake me up in June when I can sit there and watch and see who's in the NBA finals, because the NBA is not compelling. Watching guys, can you imagine going to an NBA game? You take your kid to an NBA basketball game. You got him. It's one of the most expensive tickets in all of sports. You show up to an arena, and you got a guy powdering his nose because, why? That guy doesn't want to play because it's back-to-back. You talk about wormy. Can you imagine guys like Patrick Mahomes or any of these other dudes saying, I want to take the weekend off because I'm not ready to play? I mean, who are you, Anthony Richardson of the Colts? I mean, there's very few guys like that. You know why Anthony Richardson doesn't have a job in the NFL anymore? Because he's got an NBA mentality. That's why he's not playing in the National Football League. Guys, America's spoken. I love it too. NCAA tournament, it can't get any better. The drama that we got, it is without a doubt, this is one of the greatest events in all of American sports, and it is speaking to all Americans right now. Look at all the ratings too, man. Like I said, it is absolutely spectacular. All right. Hey, my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason. And you know why that is? They win. They win. It's family-owned, family-run. Man, there's nobody better than Morgan & Morgan. If you've ever been injured on a job, do me a favor. Please make sure you have the easiest decision in your life. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They ended up getting nearly $30 million in settlement. How about the family in Florida? They ended up getting nearly $350,000. But how about this? They got almost $15 million. Folks, go to forthepeople.com/big sills or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sills or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you. We are going to talk to Dan Dakich from Outkick, get his thoughts on everything we just said. We'll do that next. Keep it right here. All right, man. I'll tell you what, I can't wait to talk to this man here. He is filled with opinions. If you ever want to go watch him over at Outkick, I saw him on Fox too, man. Looking all good there on Fox News. He was talking to Tiger. We're going to get to that here in a minute. But Dan, thanks so much for doing this, man. I want to start out with the NBA. Do you agree, America spoken? It's not the game of hoop that people hate. It's the players that are in the NBA right now. It's almost unwatchable when you watch the NBA.
Yeah, I when you said wake me up in June, I love, and this is weird. Pacers in the playoffs last year, I loved it. Like, I love the playoffs. This is very weird to me, Dan, and I like going to NBA games. Like, I like physically going. I can't stand watching it on TV. I don't like physically going to NFL games, but I love watching it on TV. It's very, like, NFL games get going, and then everything stops because somebody sprains their ankle, and now we got to go to 5 minutes. The guy with the gloves over there makes me crazy. He's got the orange gloves. But you're right. Look, I've said this. This is a true story. My wife and I turned on an NBA game. I just happened to be flipping. And, Dan, I swear to God, I didn't know whether it was a guy's game or a girl's game. Dudes look like girls now. I mean, they got the hair. Maybe I'm just old. But, no, you're absolutely right. Give me the playoffs. I don't even know about the first round. Give me something interesting. The 65 games so that you're eligible for postseason awards. They have the worst commit. When you give in, Dan, you know this as a player. Kindness is weakness to players many times. And Adam Silver giving in to players on every whim. We don't want to do this. We want this. No, they're going to take advantage of it. Now you're at a point where there's 65 games. You mentioned Jordan and those guys. You're damn right. Look at how these guys played I was a kid going to Chicago Stadium. My favorite all-time player is a guy named Bob Love, Butterbean. I knew he was playing. Now you got to sit there and go, I don't know if he's playing. Well, he's got load management. And then the dumbasses in the media who are afraid to be called racist by criticizing anybody in the NBA, they don't even call it out. They make excuses for this. Nah, it's garbage. It's nonsense. I agree with you.
All right, let's get over to the links here. I'm going to say it, man. Hey, Tiger, man, you got to respect yourself a little more here. I mean, this guy just doesn't respect himself off the course. Give me your takeaway on this story. It is wild.
Well, first, he's lucky. He's exceedingly lucky. He was in a neighborhood, going that fast, high, didn't know a car was turning, hit him. He's lucky he didn't hit a kid. He's lucky he didn't hit a child. He's lucky he didn't hit somebody and kill himself or kill somebody. I got to tell you, I know everybody is now, they're all doctors, but my thing is this. Tiger Woods, by all accounts, and I know some people that know him, is insulated. He has a bunch of yes men that hang around him, a bunch of people that are doing his everyone. He needs his mother or somebody that's going to say, look, dumbass, you're going to rehab. We've been down this road before. You tried to BS us with the whole I'm getting back to my Buddhist values and all that nonsense. And everybody listened to it. But he needs somebody that is close to him that is going to tell him. And if he don't want to do it, then don't do it. Keep doing your stupid stuff. But the idea that we're to feel sorry for him, the idea that he's got all these demons, we all got demons. Hell, I've had a replacement surgery on my knee. I've had replacement surgery on my hip. Hell, I've had 2 emergency surgeries on my balls for crying out loud. I mean, I've had 9 different surgeries on my knees. I want to hear, you had surgeries. Okay. Well, all right. Figure it out. But I'm telling you, I saw this when I worked for Coach Knight. I was fascinated going from a player to a coach. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there, and there are a lot of dudes that are pretty famous guys sitting there kissing his ass. And then I looked over, and then we went at the lunch, and there are a lot of dudes kissing his ass. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a bad way to go through life, everybody kissing your ass. So I decided I wasn't going to be that guy, and, whatever. But I've seen it with a high-profile celebrity in sports with Knight. He just got to have somebody that he's going to listen to that tells him, look, dude, this is the 3rd time, 4th time you've jacked this up. And 5th, you may be in jail for the rest of your damn life if you hit somebody, kill somebody doing that.
Absolutely. All right, Dan. Well, how about this one? I mean, should he play in the Masters if he's able to? I mean, if this guy was in another sport, maybe that guy doesn't play. I mean, it's a free
Yeah.
women. You said he's protected. Do you think you see him in Augusta?
No, I don't. I don't, and I don't think you'll see. Well, I'll ask you this after I say it. If you're a member of the PGA Tour, and I know a Masters is a little bit outside that, but every sport, you played professional football, so you have your own contract, but you're a member of a bigger organization, and when you screw up outside, Dan, whether it's NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever, you get punished by that organization. I got to assume that somebody will stand up and say, look, you ain't playing in this. The Masters will be fine. I'll watch Saturday, Sunday, the Masters, regardless of Tiger. Everybody will. But, Dan, I got to believe that PGA Tour is going to say, man, we're going to suspend you. They may not say it publicly, but I don't think there's any chance that guy plays in the Masters. Wish he would before this accident. No, I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. There's a clause in your contract, conduct detrimental to your league or conduct detrimental to your team, that if you do anything that hurts the shield or dents the team shield, you're not going to play. And as you said, he's covered by a lot of dudes in the media, Dan. I mean, it's
sickening.
like a love fest right now.
Yeah, it's sickening. I mean, look, people can't be honest. White dudes are afraid to be called racist. Other dudes are just such golf nuts. I saw this one guy, Rappaport or something, who's a reporter who does golf. He's crying. Like, shut up. Like, no, it's crap. Do your own thing, whatever you want to do. But the truth of the matter is, in my opinion anyway, you need to listen to somebody around you. Maybe that's where, his dad passing away. When my dad passed away and I was about 50, I was divorced, I was a crazy man. And I didn't have anybody figure it out until I finally did. He needs a little some of that.
Absolutely. We're going to continue more of our conversation with Dan Dakich here in a minute. And I love the fact that he played for Coach Knight. There's another Coach Knight Jr. right now in Bloomington. And I got a feeling that's why he likes that guy, Curt Cignetti. We're going to talk with him about that. We're going to talk about NIL. And you see that number 11 hanging behind him there? Isaiah made a comment about Jordan and KD. I want to get Dan Dakich's thoughts next. Keep it right here on Sports Grid. All right, we have a lot in common here with Dan Dakich here, and I'll tell you why. I lived in Bloomington. I actually, my freshman year, went to Bloomington North, and I went to Assembly Hall and watched basketball games back in the day when Woodson was there and all those guys. This was like right after they had won the national championship in 1976. So they end up winning the title the weekend, I believe, that President Reagan was shot. Isaiah wins the national championship against North Carolina. Dan Dakich joins the team. That's not Isaiah's jersey. That's Dakich's jersey. Dan joins us now here again for another segment. That's your jersey, not Isaiah's.
Yeah, we don't, at Indiana, they don't retire jerseys. They just pass them along. And I wanted to be number 10. And Isaiah just left to go to the Pistons. So next thing you know, they're like, here, you're number 11. I go, whoa, man. So I'm leading the team in assists my freshman year. I got lucky, got in some games, whatever. And the student newspaper writes an article that says something like, yeah, Dakich leads the team. Number 11 leads the team in assists, but it ain't quite the same. And, you know, when you're playing, at least I was, I'm sure you were, you think you're as good as anybody. I'm like, screw you, you know, that kind of thing. But no, they pass him down. So Isaiah's a friend, so we kind of laugh about it. And Dane Fife led the team to the championship game. He was number 11. So we know all the number 11s. We got a little society of number 11s in Indiana.
How about this, Dan? Do you think Bob Knight would like the college game today?
I do, and I'll tell you why. He passed this on to me a little bit. I ended up working for Kelvin Sampson, who's the biggest cheat in the history of college basketball, at least what I think when I worked for him, the biggest fraudulent guy ever. Yeah, I think he was amused by that stuff. And I do think this. I think he would have put together a monster NIL deal. Or he would have quit. One of the two. It wouldn't be, it would have been like, yeah, I ain't doing it, and walked away. But if he wasn't going to walk away, I don't think he would have. I think he would have worked his brains out to have the best NIL deals, the most inventive. And he did that at Texas Tech. He was cheating his ass off at Texas Tech. I was there, actually. He had me come visit. I visited. And he got busted by his AD for having kids living in an apartment complex. This is before NIL. And they were supposed to take care of the grounds and the pool, and they were living for free. Well, they weren't doing it. And I just happened to be there. I flew in to hang with him a little bit. And he's in a meeting. He tells me to stay. It's me, him, and the athletic director. And the athletic director is like, Coach, this is NCAA violation. And he MF'd this poor guy, Gerald Myers. You turned me in. I'm quitting right here. Blah, you know. So he would have figured it out really, really well. Let's put it that way. He would have.
You think that Kelvin Sampson is one of the most without integrity? Without integrity, why do you think he's a dirtbag, Kelvin Sampson, the head coach of Houston?
All right, so I'm out of coaching, and I'm going to go back to either Indiana or Arizona, and I go to Indiana, work for Sampson, and I know he's really stupid. I know he is, but I don't know he's this stupid. But he was already on probation for cheating his ass off at Oklahoma. Now people say, well, what he did, he actually did this. I think it was, God dang it, like 06, 07. It was the game. It was the day after the Steve Bartman play at Wrigley Field. There's a big crisis. I'm a head coach, Bowling Green. There's a big crisis. So they got every coach has got to talk. We have an integrity meeting with the National Association of Basketball Coaches, which Kelvin Sampson is the head of. Sampson is supposed to be leading the meeting, and I'm sitting in front of Jim Boeheim, Jim Calhoun, and somebody else. And when he gets up there, these dudes are like, this is the biggest cheating piece of blah, 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 in the blah, blah. And I'm laughing my ass off. Turns out Sampson was actually doing illegal stuff as he was driving, flying to the meeting on integrity that he was the leader of. Then I go work for him. Every kid was smoking weed. Dan, we literally had an actual pimp on the team. Sampson didn't care about anybody smoking weed, didn't care about anybody having a domestic abuse problems, didn't care about anybody going to class. And I'm sitting there. I get there as the director of ops in June, And next thing you know, I didn't think he was this stupid, but about 1st of July, all the guys are coming off the road and they're in suits. And I'm sitting there going, what's going on? And they tell me Sampson did it again. He was cheating while he was here. We're going on probation. Complete dirtbag. The biggest dirtbag. I love it, though.
Well, hey, hey, Dan, I appreciate you more than you know, man. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
brother.
for doing this, man. I had to tell you, man, the NCAA tournament. Hey, real quick, 30 seconds here. Who do you think wins the national title?
Man, you said it earlier, Dan. Arizona. Forgive me. I was not familiar with how good you were making Purdue look like little kids. Arizona, Michigan. I'm going to take Michigan just because I've been saying, based on the start of the year, Dusty May and his team are awesome. You did a great job breaking that tournament down. Appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. Anytime you need me, Dan, I'm there for you. Thank you, my friend. You got it.
Thanks,
Dan Dakich. Tim Pernetti, Commissioner of the American, next here on Sports Grid. One of my favorite commissioners in all of college sports. Yesterday, we had Stu Jackson on with us yesterday, and we were talking about the WCC, and those guys do such a great job. But I'll tell you something, a guy that is ahead of everything that's going on in college sports right now, Tim Pernetti, the commissioner of the American Conference, joins us now here. And Tim, thanks so much for doing this. Are you enjoying the tournament?
I mean, how could you not enjoy it? You know, and it's ironically, everywhere I go, everybody wants to ask the same question, right? Which is like, what's the future of the tournament? Is it going to expand? And I keep sitting here saying the same thing. Like, why are we talking about expansion? Like, is anybody watching and paying attention? Like, I actually think it's better than it's ever been. It's been, not only high profile and exciting, and the viewership is off the charts, and the attendance is off the charts, but I actually think this is something that's in really good shape right now. And talking about expansion should be done for the right reasons, right? Like if the investment is transformational and it continues to provide more opportunities for everybody, like not some at the cost of others, then let's have a conversation. But I, for one, think it's in great shape and we ought to just ride it for now.
How about your conference this year? How do you think you guys did this year? And we'll start with the hoop side of it. How do you think you guys did this year?
I think we need to do better. And, a year ago, when I first started in the league, we had, Memphis was a top 15 team the entire year, and they scheduled out a conference really tough. They beat some great teams on the road, and they really competed like a team that should be competing in our league. And I think a lot of the challenges we had with trying to elevate the profile of the league in basketball was a lot of our members were not scheduling aggressively outside the conference. More of them are doing that now. which is good. But, the flip side too is the autonomy conferences are not playing us nearly as much. And that's a challenge that we all have. It's not like the games are just sitting on the shelf and they're out there. But in year one, we were top heavy. In my second year, what we did was we instituted some scheduling parameters. And we also made sure that inside the league, the top was playing the top more. We're also creating some events with other conferences in the future. But what happened was the bottom of the league came up. Like, we had a more competitive middle and top than we've had in years. So it's not the kind of thing you turn the key on in a year. But we made progress this year, which was really good. I thought USF's emergence this year is a result of not only they had a great coach who now is gone, but they also were making investment there. And, there's excitement about college basketball in Tampa, which is great timing for us because we're actually bringing our tournament there for the next 2 years.
So let me ask you about, expanding the American Conference here. I mean, are you looking to expand? Are you being aggressive? Are you not being aggressive? When you're talking about expansion, where do you see the American right now when it comes to that?
We're, aggressive, however you want to coin it. We're on offense all the time. That's the best way I can answer it, whether this is about television or it's about what we're doing in basketball or what we did in football last year and how dynamic and deep the league was competitively. We're just getting on offense. And from day one, we've talked about private capital. It's encouraging to see a lot of people in the industry attacking that now and sort of what we're doing on the commercial side. And we created a wholly owned commercial venture inside the league called Rise Ventures. Like, everything we're doing is on offense. We've gotten a lot of very interesting and encouraging phone calls about interest in joining our league. And the thing about expansion that's just changed, and my own perspective when I worked at Rutgers and we steered them into the Big Ten when I was there, expansion used to be about increasing the value for everybody in the league. But I think you see a paradigm shift going on where you see institutions that are buying their way into it's almost like you're a minor league team and you buy an expansion franchise in the pro leagues. So you see the paradigm shifting a little bit. And, and the caution in that is everybody needs the money right now, but a buy-in fee is a finite amount of money that runs out over a period of time. And when you get into the market with your media rights, have you actually added more value, or do you get into a situation where you dilute your league? When I started in the American, because, this better than anybody, like, this conference has seen many iterations of itself. But when I started, I made a promise to the members that it would not dilute the league financially. And we've stuck to that. But, naturally, we take every phone call. There's some really interesting opportunities that are out there. And it's important to just continue to have the conversation and keep an open mind.
I don't know if people know this name, Sherwood Blunt. Here was a guy that was involved with the SMU scandal back in the day. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing guys like this now that are major boosters. Is that something as a commissioner too? Is that something that these presidents at these universities, how do you filter that? How do you make sure you're getting the right people, Tim, to invest in these programs? Because again, at the University of Miami, we had a problem a couple of years ago with a Ponzi scheme guy that was investing in our program. How do you vet those kind of guys who want to invest in these programs?
Yeah, listen, I think the schools have a harder challenge than they ever did before. And having been an athletic director and having to fundraise a lot of money, you deal with a lot of interesting people. But the core ingredient in everyone is they care deeply about the institution. They care deeply about success. Having said all that, you have to be careful. Like, there's such a need for investment now that everybody is quick to try to close deals and get into sort of you can get sucked into like a transactional mode. And I'm not sure that's, the healthiest way to operate either. I, for one, as I look at the industry and I've been lucky to be part of all these conversations that have gone on and to represent at the White House and be part of the Commission to Save College Sports. Like, there's a lot of really good discussion going on, but like, if you're going to have a cap on revenue sharing, then it's time for the collectives to go away. Like, if a cap's going to be a cap, then make it an actual cap rather than having all these other avenues to bring investment in over the top. What will happen is if there's less money in the system and there's an actual cap, there'll be less transfer movement, right? Because all of the transfer movement is tied to sort of bigger dollars in a lot of these places. That, coupled with a federal standard on NIL, coupled with the ability for transfers to be unrestricted one time and then have certain restrictions beyond the first time, are things that I think we really need within, whether you want to do it within this commission or part of the SCORE Act or whatever it is. And then long term, how do we solve the economics? Like, all of these pieces of legislation require more investment from schools that don't have it. So, like, what are we doing in the future? And, I've been vocal about the idea of, should we be unifying our media rights as conferences in the future? I think it's an unpopular topic with certain conferences, which is okay, but I think we need to get to the table and talk about it. Like, agreeing to talk about it is not agreeing to do it. Preparation is not acceptance, but having the conversation, I think, is important, because we're not really solving the economic crisis, and that's a big part of the stability of this thing in the future.
Tim, how do you see the American Conference in 2 years? What's your vision of the conference in 2 years? Or maybe that's too long, and maybe it's only a year because of such change we see in college sports. What do you see for the future of American Conference?
Yeah, to use a football analogy, to some extent, being in a role like this at a time like this is like playing middle linebacker, right? Like, you have to have your head on a swivel. You catch it upside the head on any play. Like, it's just the way it is. So you really have to see what's going on around you. And to some extent, like, I think every commissioner is playing a little bit of defense, right? There's litigation, there's lawsuits, there's legislation. People are having conversations in Washington. Like, the House settlement almost forced 10 or 20 years of work into 1 year. And, certain things are still challenged to be able to work, but you have to maintain your sights on what your vision is. Otherwise, it's very hard to get people to buy in and get them convinced. We've got really good buy-in in our league right now, which is good. And the future, like, what I would like the industry to recognize the American as in the future is that was the most innovative conference of the last 5 years. Like, they took shots, took risks, did things differently, and led the industry into conversations that we were not willing to have before, because it's just time to talk about change.
We are going to talk about that change a little more here with Tim Pernetti, as you could tell right now, is a front guy right now when it comes to the future of college sports. We're going to talk transfer portal. We're going to talk NIL and the effect on the America and in sports. We're going to do that next, right here on Sports Grid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just end, and so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on Sports Grid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And you mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on Sports Grid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering
$1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on Sports.
Man, without a doubt, one of our favorite commissioners in all of sports, Tim Pernetti of the American here. We appreciate you doing this here. What do you think the effect of NIL, Tim, has on the American? How much has that affected the American Conference when it comes to your schools?
Well, I think the things to think about are like, what are the big issues that are creating the fastest flow of water down the hill? And I think transfers are really at the top of that list. A lot of college students feel like they're more like pro athletes now. And what I would argue is they have it better than pro athletes. Like, you can wake up and play for another school every year if that's what you feel like. And I think a lot of it is transactional commitments being de-emphasized, and it's, about money. But I fully support student athletes' ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness. I think they should have that opportunity, especially because, like, when you and I played, this wasn't a multi-billion-dollar business. Right. But now that it's been built in a lot of cases on their backs, them sharing in the revenue, I think, is something that is deserved, so long as there's some guardrails around it. I worry about student athletes because they're out there taking advice from people that maybe are not the best versed in how to do these things. The impact on the American is pretty simple. Like, I put it out there. We're the most rated conference in America every single year in football and basketball. And I think before I got there, that was a real doom and gloom point for our league. But what you've seen, the comments, what I always say is, like, when we lose 4 coaches and 3 go to the SEC, 1 goes to the Big 12, I congratulated those coaches because they actually made a contribution to the American last year and for years prior that elevated our profile. And so you have to get your arms around the idea that you're a strong league with great coaches, great talent, strong institutions. But, we get rated every year. Now, the beauty of how this is all working is a lot of student athletes are getting smarter. And they're taking a bigger payday to go to a school, and they're not playing. And you know this as well as I do. Like, when we went to college, you wanted to get on the field as much as humanly possible. Student athletes are realizing that. And what we're seeing is, like, that bridge is no longer a one-way bridge. We're seeing transfers come back over the bridge into the league, which is really elevating our product. Certainly, I think the biggest concern and this is not an American concern, this is for every conference. When you have 37 different legislations around NIL, based on the states, you got a problem, right? Like, if you can be in a certain state and earn NIL money and not get taxed on it, like, legislators are creating recruiting advantages. So if you bring a federal standard in that levels the playing field, I think it gives us the ability to arrest the system a little bit. I also think there needs to be agent certification and registration and caps on commissions, because a lot of these kids, it's the only meaningful money that they'll earn in their young lives. And I think they're being taken, by a lot of people for commissions that are larger than they should be, and also for future rights. And that stuff has to be reined in.
Tim, I think you answered the question. I want to expand on it a little more here. And I'll use USF as a great example. I look at Brian Hartline, who could have been the Penn State coach, and USF ends up hiring him. Alex Golesh goes to Auburn. You see USF's basketball coach go to Providence now. I think this is a good thing. It's a breeding ground also for showing that some of these commitments by some of these institutions, I think Rob Higgins is the real gem in your conference. I mean, that's the guy that I'm concerned about being rated, because he's like you. He sees the future. He sees the future of his program, and I'm a big Rob Higgins fan. I mean, I think this is a good thing for your conference, or am I wrong when I say this?
No, you're absolutely right. And, Will Weatherford, who's the chair of the board at USF, and his brother Drew, Weatherford Capital was a group I got introduced into when I ran IMG Academy. And when we sold it to private equity, they came in as an investor. And we got to know them. And I was just not only impressed with how smart and strategic they were on the business side, but just good human beings. And, Will and I talked about that vision. And I remember when he was doing the search, and I read his dossier about how the industry needs CEOs. And selfishly, what I told him when we talked about this stuff was, I said, as a commissioner, I'm a disruptor, and I need more disruptors in the room. And I knew Rob for a lot of years from running the sports commission. I dealt with him on a lot of business. I was excited about that hire because we need more people that are not thinking about the business in a traditional way. And from everything they've done there, and sort of their very transparent manner and how they're operating and not trying to hide how the sausage is made, I think is a really important case study for everybody in the industry, because the only real way to get legislators or your fans or your donors or other people to support it is just like pull back the curtain and show them what's going on and help explain to them how they meaningfully can help. But I do think that's a different type of model. I think you'll see other schools follow suit in that model. And the only concern you have as a commissioner, right, is everybody's thinking about the future. Nobody can predict it, but instability is the thing that continues to haunt not just the American, but conferences across the country. Like, what will this thing look like in 5 years? I don't think anybody can answer that question.
I have to ask you about Army-Navy, one of my favorite games. The president makes it their own game, their own week. I mean, it's the second week, I believe, in December. What was your takeaway on this, that President Trump has made this America's game for the American Conference? This has got to be really like a merit badge for you guys.
It really is. I think this, and other people that have attended Army-Navy know this. Army-Navy is not just a football game.
No.
It's really not. It's just Army-Navy is different. And as I've started to go back to the Army-Navy game in my job, I like to take someone every year that hasn't been there. And like my first year, I took one of my sons. Last year, I took my wife and my daughter and her boyfriend. And it's just an experience that's different. And I think the fact that it has the attention of people in Washington is important, because in this era of money and transfers and NIL and a lack of commitment, Army and Navy, and I've told their players this, I've gotten a chance to speak to both groups. In a world where commitment is being de-emphasized, they are the high bar. And having played against Army Navy in college when I played at Rutgers, these are young people that have chosen a lifestyle. They haven't chosen a football team. So it's different. And I think protecting that game and defending that game is very important. Why? It doesn't matter who's in government. This is something that is important to the American people. 10 million people watch this thing every year. It's different. So I think it's really great for the league. Certainly Army and Navy being in our conference gives us access to a lot of very influential people in these discussions. And I think that's great as we chart the course for the future for the conference.
Boy, I'll tell you, I've been to that game, Tim, 8 times. I first thought, hey, look, it's 240-pound guys playing against one another, until I saw the march out, until I saw the commitment by America's finest people there between the academies. I've never been to anything more traditional, and it's still what makes America today. One of the greatest sporting events of all time is Army-Navy, and it is the last beacon of American sports. Tim, thank you so much for this, man. I appreciate you doing this. Thank you again, my friend.
You got it, Dan. Talk to you soon. Take care.
You got it. Absolutely awesome. That's got to be a bucket list for you. Sileo says next, right here on Sports Grid. right, so we now have a controversy about the Rooney Rule in the National Football League. The infamous Rooney Rule, the rule that's supposed to make minority hiring better in the NFL. It's a sham. It's the stupidest rule of all time in the NFL. So James Upmeyer, the AG there, in the state of Florida, has now come up and said that the Rooney Rule is unconstitutional and that the Rooney Rule, it hires on race and not merit. He's right. He's absolutely right. I'm going to make a comment to you here, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody. Once again, folks, I don't want a black coach as my head coach. I do not. I want the right coach as my coach. I want a guy like Mike Tomlin as my coach, who calls you out, puts you on blast. Mike Tomlin reminds me of my coach, Jimmy Johnson. He doesn't care what color you are, green, white, or orange. You're not bigger than the unit. All 53 dudes in that locker room are looked at by Mike Tomlin as a dude that looks at everybody as a man. Sure, there's guys that are quarterbacks and wide receivers, but Mike Tomlin is a man's man. That's the kind of coach you want to play for. Mike Tomlin wasn't put in that position because he was black. He was put in that position because of merit. Having worked with Monty Kiffin in Tampa, having worked with Tony Dungy in Tampa, worked his way up to become the head football coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am sick and tired of people getting put in positions because they think it's race. Now, I will say this. The National Football League does an absolutely pathetic job at elevating minorities. You just had 10 openings for head coaches in the National Football League in this current cycle. Not one African-American was hired in that entire cycle. So don't tell me the Rooney Rule works. Hey, you see the same regurgitated guys being recycled over and over and over again. I get it. Look, you need more minorities when it comes to position coaches. You need more people that are going to be also general managers that get the opportunity to elevate people. Don't talk to me about this stupid Rooney Rule. It's window dressing. It's the NFL's words for affirmative action. Listen, if you really wanted to hire the right person, like a Mike Tomlin, hire the right person because of merit. I am so sick and tired of hearing we've got to put this guy in a position or that guy in a position because we've got to be balanced. Let me tell you again, every single athlete, every player that I've ever been around, when you look at your head football coach, I don't look at my head football coach because of his race. I look at something that a man said years ago for the content of his character. I think that guy was MLK Jr. I look for people of character, to instill character, to make sure that you understand that you're part of a group, that you're all rowing in the same boat in the same direction. Not one guy off going in a different direction. And those are the kind of coaches that every athlete wants to be coached by. They want to be coached hard. They want to be coached honestly. And they want to be coached by people that have integrity and that have merit. Merit, folks. That's how you become a great coach. You're put in a position for merit. Stop with this Rooney Rule. Upmeyer's right. The Attorney General of the state of Florida is absolutely right with this rule. Hiring over race and not merit? Where has our country gone to, man? You put coaches like Tony Dungy or coaches like Mike Tomlin in position because these guys are the most qualified people on the planet. I'll say it again to you. It's not about playing for a black coach. It's about playing for the right coach and having the right coach lead men, create character, push people forward, excel, and understand and have an understanding of brotherhood, a locker room, knowing exactly how to connect. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got everything to do with understanding the people you have in your building and understanding the people you have in your locker room. A locker room is one of the greatest places I've ever been raised in. Everyone's got different opinions. Everyone's got different ideologies. Everyone's got different philosophical things on how they look at politics and how they look at race and religion. But the one thing they all do is we come together for a common goal, and that's to win games as a brotherhood. It's the greatest family outside of my family I've ever been around, is being in a locker room. And the man in charge is the person that's there for merit and puts you in a position to win. The Mike Tomlins of the world are needed. There's no doubt. But the Mike Tomlins of the world are not needed because they're black. They're needed because of character, merit. That's a guy I want to play for. George Kurtz kicks off hour number 2 right here on Sports Grid. Hour number 2 here on Outspoken, and I got to tell you, man, I don't know about you, but when I was a young kid, showing up to a baseball park in opening weekend, one of my greatest memories was I'm at Shea Stadium and I see 41 come out of the dugout, and I say, "Oh my God, it's Seaver." He turns around and looks at me. You got a program, kid, or a ball? I said, "I got a program, Mr. Seaver." He signs my program, and I'm looking, I go, "Oh my God." It's one of the only times in my life I had an "oh my God" moment, was meeting Tom Seaver. And George, for you, opening day, still have the magic, or do you think football's overtaken that? Or is the opening week of Major League Baseball, the opening weekend really, does it still have that magic?
It has the romanticism for me, Dan. And what I mean by that is, you know, my father and I didn't get along much, and he passed away in '93. But the only thing we agreed on was our love of MLB and the New York Yankees. And so opening day will always hold that special feeling for me. Also, Dan, I'm here in the Northeast, okay? Opening day should mean the weather's going to get a little warmer, okay? A little tired of freezing my butt off out here. So, yes, I still love opening day. Maybe it's not the same because they do it on the Wednesday night, Thursday now, rather than the Monday, Tuesday. But, yes, I still love opening day. It's not my favorite time of the year, Dan. Sports time, it's probably about week 1 and week 5 of the NFL, where you got baseball playoffs, NHL opening, and the NFL going on. So that's probably my favorite time. This would be second.
All right, let's start with the Yankees. Boy, I'll tell you, man, Judge not having a good WBC 24, he didn't have a really good World Series. I mean, how he goes, obviously, is how this Yankee team goes. Do you think they're good enough defensively, and do you think they're good enough in the starting pitching or the bullpen to make this thing happen in the American League East? Because, look, Bo Bichette, obviously, is no longer there in Toronto. The Orioles have made some moves when it comes to adding players to their young team. And also the Red Sox may be looking for some more power. Where do the Yankees fit in the American League East?
Listen, the American League East is back to being the American League Beast, right? All those teams you mentioned there, they're all good teams here. Boston, you're right. They lost Bregman, didn't replace that. I think they'll do it during the season. You can find power during the season. They'll make that move here, and they have the farm system to go out and get anybody they want here. Love what Baltimore did. Love what the Orioles did during the offseason. Do I put them there with the Yankees, Sox, and Jays? No, but they may be one tier down. And another team, if they want to go out and get somebody, they have the prospects to do it. And then they go to get to the Toronto Blue Jays. A lot of problems in their rotation right now. A lot of injuries there. Bieber, Yasevich, Berrios. We'll see how they survive that as the season rolls on here. The problem for the Jays and the Yankees is likely to be the bullpen. I think both teams will survive the starting pitching injuries, right? The Yankees will get Rodon back in about a month, Cole back in 2 months, and they got Rodriguez and Lorang down in the minor leagues. They need reinforcements there. But the bullpen, especially for the Yankees, more the middle part, I think Bednar will be fine. Doval will be okay with that middle part. The seventh inning, seventh inning could be a problem for the Yankees there. We'll see how that rolls up. The Blue Jays probably need help all over the place. Anybody really trust Hoffman? No. They probably should have addressed that during the offseason here. They didn't. They're going to need to make a major upgrade in that bullpen eventually. But all those teams, Yankees, Jays, Sox, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them won the division here. They're all good teams.
You know, George, I got to ask you about Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman. I mean, if the Buffs were alive today, these guys would have been blown out 5 years ago. I mean, you got a losing record for Aaron Boone in the postseason. Yeah, Brian Cashman and the Yankees really haven't done anything in about 8 years right now. I mean, you tell me, when do we get to a position where it's not just about hanging American League East flags? It's about putting World Series flags up at Yankee Stadium, or at least I thought. I mean, has the standard dropped in New York?
I mean, you hate to say it, but Hal is not George. All right, you said it, George. Listen, everybody would have been fired here. Listen, I'm around with George at the 70s, right? When it was the Bronx Zoo with Jackson, Munson, and Billy Martin and all that. That way, if we had social media then, my God. All right, but that has changed with the Yankees. Hal wants to make money. He wants to win, but it's not his first priority. Making money is the first priority. We've all seen the stats from last year. The Yankees spend about half of their revenue on players, only about half. They may spend a lot more than other teams. They're number 2 and number 3 in payroll, but only half their money on payroll, while other teams may spend 80%. Yankees want to make money here, but he wants to win as well. I'm not a Boone fan, Dan. I don't hate the man. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's funny. He's got a sense of humor. Love when he gets thrown out of games. I kind of enjoy that. But he's not that classic manager. Right? He's not going to outmanage you. He's not. He is there to control the media, because he's very good at, and because he's good with the players. He's not there for strategizing. All right, that's the analytics department. They'll take care of that. So I don't think you can also say Boone should be fired. Cashman is just going to hire the next yes man. Like Cashman was the one who needs to go if you really want to make big change with the Yankees. And I'm not advocating for that, by the way. But I'm saying if you're a Yankee fan, you can want Boone to be fired all you want. Even if they do it, he's just going to hire the next yes man. You won't be happy with him either. You need Cashman to go and need an overall change, which might come if the Yankees eventually face plant. But I don't see the Yankees face planting this year, not without a lot of injuries. You mentioned before, Judge would probably have to go down for a significant portion of the season for the Yankees season to be toast.
Do you agree with this comment I'm going to make to you here about the Dodgers and Yankees? Is it me now, George? But for me, the appointment-setting team to watch is Ohtani and this Dodger team. I mean, years ago, as you mentioned with Steinbrenner, the Yankees were the Bronx Zoo. You wanted to see that baseball team. They were the face of baseball. Has the face of baseball shifted to the Dodgers now? I mean, I tuned in a Dodger game last night, and there was Koufax. Before the game, I'm like, wow, this looks really great at Dodger Stadium with Dodger dogs. I'm ready to roll. Have they changed the landscape?
Oh, I think they have. I completely agree with that statement here. And by the way, I'm not against the Dodgers. I think it's good to have a villain in sports. All right, the Yankees were that villain, the evil empire in the 90s, right, the 2000s. The Dodgers are now that team. They're the evil empire. Everybody hates the Dodgers unless you're a Dodger fan. I think that's good for sports. I think it was good in football where we all hated the Patriots, or you all hated the Cowboys, or the Steelers, or whoever it was, the 49ers. It's good for the game to have something we can all come together at, right? We can all hate the Dodgers here. They're playing within the rules. And as I mentioned, they're one of those teams that does spend their money. I understand they make money, a lot more money than other teams because of the Ohtani in Japan and all that. Fine. But they spend it. They're not pocketing it. all right, and they want to win. So I sort of applaud the Dodgers, right? Go for it. Go sign your Tuckers. Go sign Edwin Diaz and all this. And let's face it, these guys took less money to go to the Dodgers because they want to win. And they know the Dodgers are going to win rather than go to another team that, winning is nice, but maybe not the priority.
Okay, so how long do we wait here, George, until we start seeing umpires melting down over this ABS? An umpire yesterday was challenged 6 times. I can't think that's going to go well. Hey, you keep getting challenged like that. You know these folks, man. They love to be part of the game. When do we start seeing these meltdowns?
You sort of saw it yesterday. That umpire you mentioned was C.B. Buckner, all right? And he didn't like it that he was challenged. He was getting annoyed. Hey, get the calls right, buddy. You're a terrible umpire. You have been for years. He's been around since 1999, I believe. So he's been bad. I mean, there's a lot of bad umpires. This is the opening night game. Bill Miller was behind the plate. He was terrible. All right. So, listen, umpires are bad. It's just the way it is. Are there going to be some problems? Yes, because they're going to get tired of being challenged. And by the way, somebody brought up, the first challenge for the Yankees, first challenge for Major League Baseball was Jose Caballero. The umpire was ruled correct. The next pitch, a pitch that was 6 to 8 inches inside, he called a strike again. Was that retaliation for that? Figuring, he's not going to challenge twice in a row. It makes you want. It brings up these other, what's going on here. I like the ABS system. I don't think it should be just 2 challenges. I think every call should be go to the computer. Dan, I go to independent league games. Long Island Ducks are right here. They use it. They have a little earpiece in their ear. You don't even notice it. Pitch, strike. It takes a half a beat, ball. And it's fine. And the calls, no one can argue because the computer's doing it, so there's no arguing here. All right, unless I like Aaron Boone getting thrown out of games, I don't need to see 65, 70-year-old men going to have a stroke argue with these umpires here. So I like the ABS system. I think they should be able to challenge more, but I agree with you. Umpires are going to have an issue.
You bet, man. No doubt about it. We're going to continue more with George here in a minute. But our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason, my friends. It's because they win. Tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family down in Florida that was initially offered $350,000. They ended up getting nearly $12 million. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sales sent you. We're going to talk some NHL. That's right. Some NHL next. Ole is making news. Alexander Ovechkin next, right here on Outspoken. You know, I love talking some NHL hockey, and right now, no question, we saw something yesterday with one of the greatest players in the history of the NHL, Alexander Ovechkin, with his 34th hat trick. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think that passes Brett Hull for fourth all time. I mean, he's 40 years old, George, and this guy's still doing it. I mean, your takeaways on Alexander Ovechkin in his career?
Even before he set the record, he was the greatest goal scorer of all time. Now, you and I were just talking, right? You mentioned during your years in high school, the Islanders won the Stanley Cup every year. That's in the 80s. So you and I have been around for a while, right? I went to those games, by the way. I had that parade going right down my street, about three houses from my from where I lived. So fantastic. Then my point is, if you're an older hockey fan, which you and I are, the goalies wore nothing back then. They literally wore nothing. All right. Nowadays, you can't see the net. They're so big. The equipment's so large. So for a goal scorer to score this amount of goals nowadays, even before he passed Gretzky, he was the greatest goal scorer ever. I said goal scorer. I did not say greatest player ever. All right. So relax, people. All right. I think there are not quite a few, but a few players I put above him as far as overall players. But he's still a really good player. He's got 30 goals this season, Dan. Everyone's down on him because he doesn't have 40, 50. He still leads the team in scoring. And it's not a very good team. All right. So all the power to AO. I'm an Islander fan. Outside of Islanders, he was my favorite player in the NHL. Just like his joy for the game, especially at his age, the goal. I mean, it's fun to watch here. And he set the record on Long Island last year. So, yeah, I'm an Ovi fan here. I hope he stays, Dan. Have a funny feeling he's gone after this year.
All right, so you mentioned the historical place. You know, Gretzky, obviously, Bobby Orr, who's my favorite player in the history of the NHL. I happen to know Bobby a little bit. Mario Lemieux, you know, do you put him in that category? Do you put him above it? Do you put him outside of it? I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see this again, George. A guy win the Norris Trophy, a guy win the Art Ross Trophy, a guy win the Conn Smythe Trophy, and a guy win the Hart. And he did that 3 times. He did that twice, and that's Bobby Orr. So, again, it's hard for me to put Alexander Ovechkin there. But as you said, the game's different today. Where do you put Alexander Ovechkin when it comes to those pantheon of players in the NHL?
I think he's on Mount Rushmore. All right. I don't think you have a choice. I think he has to be a top 4 player here. And we didn't even talk, we mentioned Brodeur earlier. Brodeur and Patrick Roy, they have to be in this conversation as well. All right. And someone has to be left out. You mentioned Orr, Lemieux, Gretzky, Brodeur, Roy. I think Mount Rushmore only has 4. All right, one's being left out here, so that's a little tough here. And I'm not including players who are still playing today or whose career is going to go on here. I think Ovechkin's career is about over. Crosby has to be mentioned here. McDavid's going to be mentioned before it's all over. So it's going to get tougher and tougher here. But he's the greatest goal scorer ever. That's on Mount Rushmore, right? Greatest home run hitter, Mount Rushmore baseball. Greatest goal scorer has to be on the Mount Rushmore of hockey. Like I said, Gretzky and Lemieux. I didn't see much of Bobby Orr, a little not quite up there. So I can't really talk about him. Gretzky and Lemieux I would have above him. I think he's anywhere from 3 on down.
Maybe we'll change the Mount Rushmore like Trump's trying to change it, and then I had a 5th one there. I'll just keep it there, and we'll keep it in the room. How about this one here? Of all the teams that have struggled since the Olympic break, you think that's been the Tampa Bay Lightning? They had 6 guys that went to Milan. You know, they kind of came back. They were on a heater going into Milan. Coming out of it, they've kind of given it up a little bit to Buffalo here. Have they been, and John Cooper's team have been maybe the most affected since that Olympic break?
Maybe. I mean, listen, Dallas had some injuries that they lost to, like Rantanen just came back yesterday. I think that affected them a little bit. You said it. What was your little point there? They were on one hell of a heater going in. Maybe it's the lower averages here. All right, it just had to come. You know, you probably didn't want the break to come when it did. Although Buffalo probably didn't want it to come when it did either, and they're pretty much playing just as well here. Buffalo's just they're on another world right now. All right, do I think they're the better team than Tampa? Probably not. But I think Tampa just sort of, once it came down to the means here, we do need to know what's going on with Victor Hedman. He left the team for personal reasons here. Not a huge deal as long as he's back in a week, 10 days, tomorrow, whatever it might be. We don't know. If that leave goes longer, they're not going to be able to survive without one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Bottom line is, I think Tampa will be just fine. Kucherov, by the way, is your MVP. All right, of the NHL. I don't know how anybody's even arguing this. All right, but he's should be the MVP there of the NHL there. They'll be fine there. Tampa is still, in my mind, I don't care if they finish first in the division or not. They have a team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
No doubt. He's probably going to win the Art Ross Trophy, too, for the most points in the NHL. Let me take you over to some NFL. this whole A.J. Brown saga that's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, it looks like only one team is in the mix. Maybe there's going to be a secret team. Do you think he's going to be moved by the start of September when the season starts?
By the start of September, yes. I think the next big thing will be before the draft. All right, we'll see if someone wants to, because the Eagles are going to want compensation for this year. But I also think June 1st plays a part in this. I think they may need to get rid of him after June 1st for salary cap reasons to spread it out over 2 years rather than the one. So I think that's an issue as well here. I still think the Patriots are that team. I think the Jalen Waddle deal that just happened has complicated things. If he's going for what the price he went for, even I think A.J. Brown's a better player. All right, so the Eagles are going to want what they want as far as the price tag for him. So I think that's complicating things as well. But to answer your question, by September 1st, I would say 80%. Draft, I would put it more like 60. I think after the draft and before, after September 1st. I think that's really what we're looking at here. After June 1st, after June 1st, once they can spread that cap.
If you're John Spytek, the general manager of the Raiders, are you still taking calls and potentially still trying to think of moving Crosby?
Of course. I mean, the whole reason why it was a great idea to move Crosby and Crosby's great, by the way, and I think he's fine health, by the way. I'm not buying all this Baltimore with a micro or whatever.
It's a meniscus, really.
Right. PR, man, great job, Baltimore. You're doing the best you can, but we all know that's BS. But by the time you're good again, you want to be an optimist? 2 years. That's 2 more years. Crosby's now post 30. Get those to you can't get 2 number ones anymore. That time has passed. But you can get a number 1, maybe a 3, something like that. Take it and go. Lick your wounds here. Baltimore screwed you over. Don't deal with them anymore. All right, that sort of thing here. But yeah, I think he's still going to be moved once again. Right before the deadline would be right before the trade. Draft day. That would be the day I would look for him. Some team I think will pony up for him. Cowboys still might be in the mood here, although Jerry says no.
Boy, I could see the Dallas Cowboys. Can you imagine also if they were able to land a Myles Garrett because of the restructuring of the contract they did? I don't know. I mean, it had no relief on the cap whatsoever for Cleveland. Are they in the process potentially of moving Myles Garrett? So that's going to be a story to keep an eye on. Could you imagine Dallas with all the moves they've made since Micah Parsons? They move Parsons, they get Kenny Clark, they end up getting, again, some really great players on that team. I think they've gotten better. So we shall see, George. George, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much, my friend.
Anytime. Have a great weekend.
We are going to talk about the NCAA getting beat again, thank God, next year on Sports Grid. You know, one of my loves in life is watching the NCAA get their asses kicked in. To see Trinidad Chambliss win his eligibility case against the National Communist Association of America just is absolutely awesome for me. So Trinidad Chambliss is going to get his medical hardship and play his 6th year at Ole Miss. Here's a kid that's going to be in a conversation for the Heisman Trophy and also put Ole Miss in a position to potentially win the Southeastern Conference and get his college team again into the 12-team tournament. I so love this. Mississippi State Supreme Court has denied the NC2A's appeal against Trinidad Chambliss' preliminary injunction. Chambliss remains eligible for the upcoming 2026 season. Kudos to this. Watching this organization go after players and their eligibility has been one of the worst things possible in all of college sports. I love the fact that these kids get a chance to continue their play and not their education. Will you stop with this? This is not about education any longer. This is now professional sports. And the reason why this means a lot to me, I had the NCAA take my final year of eligibility away from me because I was trying to graduate and get a college degree. They held 1 year against me in one of my transfers and said that I had used my clock up, which became the only kid in the history of the NCAA to ever have 9 credits become full-time. You got it. You're looking at them. Nowhere on the planet to this day is 9 credits a full-time student. But because the NCAA back in the day could manipulate rules any way they saw fit, this is exactly what's happening to them now. The best time and the best thing that could happen to college sports is that this thing gets burned down to the ground. They have been an absolute train wreck for decades and decades and decades when it comes to governing the student athlete. Everybody else has benefited, whether it's ADs, whether it's coaches and institutions. The money that they've generated for generations, and forgetting the player and putting all the heat and all the weight of how sports is made in college football and basketball on the player where they get no benefits. I love the fact that these kids are now starting to get paid for their nil. I love the fact that these kids get money. Let me hook you up with something here. Are you under the impression I didn't take money in college? If you go to my X account, maybe we'll do this a little bit later on too when it comes to final thoughts here, but hey, are you under the impression I didn't take money? And I didn't get a Corvette when I was at the University of Miami? And that an alumni guy gave me that or gave me a place to live? Are you under the impression that all of a sudden now we're looking at something that didn't happen then? You know what nil means? Now it's legal. In the past, it wasn't. I can't tell you how many kids I know and how many people I know that took money from agents, boosters, what have you. I sold my tickets for $1,000 a piece when it came to having an opportunity to make an extra money when I was at the U. Are you under the impression that people didn't make money? Now again that it's legal? Are you under the impression that people at Oklahoma or Ohio State weren't taking money? Or that Eric Dickerson wasn't taking money? I mean, folks, you have just looked at college sports and you have thought of it as being amateur sports. I'll say it one more time to you. Now it's legal. And this is great to see the NCAA getting their ass kicked. You have coaches making $14 to $15 million a year. And you have ADs making $4 million. Now you get kids with an opportunity to make a boatload of money in college sports. Kudos to them, man. I'm a big fan of it. And one of the things that I got into broadcasting over was the ability to be able to make money off your name and likeness. Folks, if you think what I just got through telling you is some sort of epiphany and that this wasn't going on in college sports, I've never had a problem saying this. And nor has anybody else ever had a problem coming out and saying what happened 45 years ago. I mean, at the end of the day, remember, now it's legal. And to see Trinidad Chambliss having the ability to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, to make $5 or $6 million. Kudos to him. Kudos to his team. And I look forward to watching him play in the Southeastern Conference this year. I can't wait to see what that kid does, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to be rooting for him without a doubt. I look forward to seeing how this thing plays out and watching the NCAA right here getting their tails kicked. Chambliss is eligible to play in 2026. Kudos to you, kid. I'm rooting for you, man. Hey, by the way, if Lane Kiffin can leave for $15 million, glad to see Trinidad Chambliss back in Oxford, Mississippi to play some football. We're going to talk with Ryan McIntyre next. We're going to talk some NCAA hoop and some college football next on Sports Grid. Truly one of the best times of the year is the NCAA college basketball tournament. These ratings have been off the charts. Over 10 million people per game have been watching the NCAA. I told you America has spoken. They're not watching really the NBA. They're watching the NCAA. Two teams have already punched their ticket, and Ryan McIntyre joins us right now. Let's start it out here with Illinois getting it done. How shocked are you? I mean, you know what? You and I talked a little bit about it last week. Here was one of those teams that, look, Iowa did a great job against the Gators in that South region, and Iowa was really doing it from the perimeter. They were doing it underneath also on the boards, but how did Illinois get this thing done against Iowa?
Yeah, Team Europe is what I call Illinois. They kind of did it the old-fashioned way with all those guys from overseas, Underwood, coming from the Bob Huggins tree. It was a different team because they were more offensive-oriented, and they really stretched you out and made shots from all five positions. But, yeah, they've been really good all year, battle-tested coming out of the Big Ten. Underwood finally breaks through, gets them to the dance.
How about this? Do you think they're too young? One of the criticisms is that they got a lot of youth on that basketball team. So in your opinion, again, they have all the components. They got the perimeter game. They got the guard play, and they play great in transition. Have they been a surprise for you getting to Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think a little bit just because we've seen Illinois come up short in the dance multiple times under Underwood. They've been bouncing the round of 32, I think, like 3 or 4 times. They did get to the Elite Eight a couple years ago before losing to UConn. I think Boswell is kind of the key with being the vet there. He's a fifth-year senior now, and you kind of complement him with all those young, talented guys. So I don't know if they're too young, but I think having Boswell is a nice compliment to the young, talented guys.
Absolutely there. And also, too, now you go over to the other one, Arizona, the first time in 25 years, they make it to a Final Four. You know, it's been really a three-team race, really, hasn't it, for the three best teams, Duke, Michigan, and Arizona. Arizona, talk about the job they did against Purdue, 79-64. I mean, that looks like a complete team.
Yeah, I agree with you on the top three teams. I may put Arizona above those other two. I mean, they have just been a total wagon this entire year, and they didn't even play well last night, and they still won by 15. They spotted Purdue 7 points in the first half and still won the game going away by 15. They remind me of the UConn team when they won their back-to-back championships. They just dominate you with their size and their phicality in the paint.
You know, they're almost like an old school Big East team, isn't it? I mean, the way that they play like that there. What makes them so good, though? I mean, what is their key? What is the one thing? First, I'll ask you, what is their strength, and maybe what's their kryptonite that a team can maybe knock them off in the Final Four?
If they don't shoot the ball well from the perimeter, so that's definitely their weakness. If they find a game where they just can't throw it in the ocean, and another team gets hot from the perimeter, like Texas Tech did when they beat them out in Tucson, but I also think that could be their strength is they don't have to make shots to dominate you. If they make shots, it's just great. It's great. It's extra gravy, and it's the cherry on top. So I think that their strength is just the way that they're able to dominate the glass, dominate the paint, and in an era where everybody still wants to shoot a bunch of threes, the game is still one at the rim and one in the paint.
All right. So we're going to watch this rock fight later on. You know, you're going to get in a phone booth and you're just going to fight it out in a phone booth there, or you're going to get into the squared circle with UConn and Duke, man. I mean, this is everything you're looking for right here in this bad puppy here. This is what you're looking for. I wish this was more so a Final Four game than it is a Elite Eight game. Give me your thoughts here on this game.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a war. And we've seen these two teams have wars over the years. But between Calhoun and Krzyzewski, now we get Shire and Hurley. I'm not going against Hurley. Hurley is really good this time of year. I'm going to just take that UConn pedigree, that toughness, that culture. I like Caravan. He's been there, done that, played in Final Fours, won 2 national championships. I trust Hurley on the 48-hour turn over Shire. So I'm going to take UConn in the points, and I'm going to take UConn on the money line.
Boy, I tell you, you look at I use the name Norman Dale, the guy from Hoosiers, and I'm going to add Bob Knight, and then I'm going to say that's Dan Hurley. I mean, he doesn't mind screaming at refs. He doesn't care screaming at players, opposing teams. He is a villain, and every sport needs to have a villain. He's truly one of the great villains that we've seen in college basketball.
He really is. And, I completely agree. I mean, we had Spurrier forever in college football. Signetti's playing the villain a little bit in college football now, I think. Lane Kiffin does a good job and as well down at LSU. So I enjoy the villains, and I agree with you. It's good for the sport. It's great for us talking about the games for a guy that is so polarizing. But one thing you can't argue, the guy wins basketball games. He's already won 2 national championships.
Are you shocked that Tennessee is in this game against Michigan?
A little bit, because Barnes has not been good in March Madness, but he's defying all the odds this year. I mean, they beating Iowa State, controlling the game. They got their hands full today, but I do like them with the points. I like the way that they've kind of come together, this backcourt coming from the portal. Barnes has really got them guarding too. So I think Michigan is going to have their hands full. I think there's going to be a war coming up here in about a half hour, and I'll take the points with the Vols.
What makes Michigan so good?
Yeah, where do I start? They're pretty damn good. It's their versatility and their size. I think on the perimeter, they start in the front court 6'9", 6'10", and then a 7'3" center. So that helps. And then they have veteran guards. The pieces just really mesh well. Dusty May and company did a really good job in the portal. I really like this Michigan team, but I think they're going to have a rock fight on their hands today.
How about this, too? I mean, if you're talking physicality, who's a more physical team, Michigan or Arizona?
I think slightly Arizona. Arizona just is more bulkier, if that's the right term. It just I feel like they just beat you up more. Michigan is more, I think, is quicker on the perimeter, but Arizona, I think, is just more physical on the inside.
Do you think the tournament did a good job at placing these teams in the regions? You know, and it looks like it's playing the way that they looked and how they thought that on Selection Sunday a couple weeks ago. Do you think they did a good job at putting these teams in the right regions?
I think for the most part they did a good job. There were a couple of things that I thought were kind of a joke. I mean, Miami of Ohio having to play a play-in game after only losing one game the entire season. I thought VCU got underseeded. I thought Utah State did. But I also think that goes back to the narrative that they're trying to push the SEC and Big Ten agenda more and more as we slowly pull away with the TV money.
Hey, do you agree, America Spoken, that, hey, they love the game of hoop. They just don't like the NBA versus the NCAA because 10 million people are watching this, Ryan, per game. And you see the ratings going down for the NBA. I mean, it's not the sport, it's the dudes in the sport.
Yeah, the load man, the NBA has a big issue. That load management thing is a huge. It's a big turnoff. It's you got people that are spending money that they probably don't have or can't save to go watch. Let's say LeBron James go play a game and then he sits out like that. That's a big turnoff, and it's just they don't relate to the fan like I think college basketball does. So I agree with you, and I'm not surprised. I'm not a big NBA guy. I'll watch the playoffs, but college basketball over the NBA every day and twice on Sunday.
Absolutely. Wake me up in June. That's what I tell people. I'll follow it in June when they're in the NBA finals there. You know what I'm going to do with Ryan? I'm going to get his hat on for college football. And I'm going to get his thoughts on some college football coming up because, again, are we going to see the same group of dudes like the Ohio States and the Georgias? We'll do that next. Keep it here on Sports Grid.
I know you didn't. Talk!
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time. Yeah.
Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just end. It's all until, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on Sports Grid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And I mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on Sports Grid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on Sports Grid.
All right, Ryan McIntyre joins us here for some college sports. Real quick, before we get to some college football stuff here, who do you have making it to the Final Four? We know two of them already. And who do you have right now getting to the national championship game and winning it?
Yeah, so before the tournament, I had Arizona. I'm going to stick with Arizona. Nothing has changed there. I'll go Arizona over UConn in the national championship.
Woo, baby, that'd be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to get a rock fight there and some bats for this bad puppy here. All right. So let's go over to some college football here. All right. So LSU versus Ole Miss this year. That's going to be in Oxford. I'm going to ask you, Lane Kiffin goes to Baton Rouge. Who has a better college football season coming up this year? Ole Miss or LSU?
Oh, man, hit me with the good stuff early. First of all, I can't wait for the return game. We were talking about villains. Lane Kiffin has done a good job wearing the villain cape. I'll go Ole Miss year one slightly. But I think they're both around that 9-10 win mark, both fringe college football playoff teams. I think Ole Miss has more returning and more in place. I think LSU is better long term because I think Lane is a more proven coach. But Sam Levitt's a heck of a quarterback too. So we got the news on Trinidad Chambliss. He's eligible to come back for another year at Ole Miss. I love the way that he played in the college football playoff, but I love Levitt as well. So I can't wait. I can't wait for this Ole Miss LSU game.
Tell me what you think Indiana's going to look like. Now, remember something with Curt Cignetti. He took 13 transfers through the portal from James Madison. So he had kind of an understanding of what those kids were coming into Bloomington. How is the encore going to look? I mean, the first 2 years were absolutely sensational in Bloomington. How do you think the next 2 years look? Is that what we're going to be looking at? Because I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing looks after and all these guys end up moving out, which they have.
Great question, Dan, because they're more talented, I feel like now, or more talented if you look at the rankings, but that doesn't always translate to wins. Culture still and your locker room still wins ball games, and especially when you get in those tough awards down the stretch when you're playing Miami in the Natty or you're playing Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. I think they're still going to be really good, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year, just because you still have a lot of egos, a lot of guys that have to buy in, and hitting on it year after year. Every now and then you are going to swing and miss. I saw he did kick somebody out of practice for wearing gold cleats the other day.
I know. A little Bob Knight down there in Bloomington here. So, Again, hey, so we had Kyle Whittingham on with us a couple shows ago. How do you think he does? I mean, here's a guy that was at Utah forever. He went through all those transitions of conference to conference. He built that program up. I mean, truly one of the best coaches in college football history. Now he's in Ann Arbor. What do you think the impact he has up there?
I think he's a perfect fit just because of the way they want to just control the line of scrimmage. We're talking physicality. I mean, Utah was really physical under Whittingham. Now he's got the quarterback in place, and I think in the trenches, Michigan is always dominant. So I love the fit. I think Michigan could be a college football playoff team next year.
How about Matt Campbell and his move to Penn State? What do you look at Penn State this year? I mean, there's one thing that I think we always will say about Penn State, even going back to Paterno. You talk about recruiting. Players go to Happy Valley, but winning a national championship, that's been something that James Franklin wasn't able to deliver. You think Matt Campbell, does he elevate, or is yet still wait and see what happens there in Happy Valley?
I think it's wait and see. Ironically, there's a lot of similarities between Matt Campbell and James Franklin. I think both kind of just don't win the big game, but are both really good football coaches. I thought the Franklin firing was premature, to be honest. I mean, they were ranked number 2 in the country, and then 3 weeks later, he's fired. Matt Campbell, I think he does a great job of getting more out of less. I thought he did an unbelievable job at Iowa State. But I could see them being similar to what they were under Franklin, just winning 9-10 games a year. Can they beat Indiana? Can they beat Ohio State? Can they beat Michigan now?
Is there a coach with any hotter of a hot seat than Ken DeBoer at Alabama? Hey, it seems every week this guy, because again, here's the rule, right, Ryan? You don't want to follow the legend. You want to follow the guy who followed the legend. And it just doesn't matter. Even though he got to the 12-team tournament, I mean, every single year he's going to be on the hot seat until he wins a national championship. It's kind of unfair a little bit. Or again, do you think he's a good coach?
I do think he's a good ball coach. I don't know if the fit is the best down there in Alabama. I thought it was an odd hire, and I thought he was crazy for. I know it's Alabama, but I would not want to follow Nick Saban. And it didn't help that they got absolutely boat raced by Indiana in that playoff game. It's one thing to lose. You can't get blown out by 30 plus at Alabama against Indiana. That's unacceptable. So yeah, his seat's hot. We'll see if he makes it through.
Ohio State, give me the forecast for that team. I mean, boy, I'll tell you, if there's one team that does the best job in recruiting, that roster is always loaded. I was watching the combines, Ryan. You got guys running 4.4 that are 250-pound linebackers. I mean, and then you put their tape on, they're insane. Still a loaded football team there in Columbus?
Yes, definitely. And led by Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he's unbelievable. Ooh. So, Ohio State, it's who's who on that roster. And I think now they can reset. Last year, I felt like they put so much energy going into the year. We got to beat Michigan. Where they beat Michigan, then they didn't win another game the rest of the season, where they kind of lost to Indiana, then honestly got dominated by your Canes in that playoff game. So I think they reset. They're right back in the mix, probably a Final Four and right there knocking on the door to win a natty.
All right, I'll give you a couple seconds here. West Virginia, baby. What do they got there with the couches that get lit on fire there in Morgantown?
Smash that over 5.5. Disrespectful. Let's go. You know Rich Rod. He's a culture guy. He's an old school guy. He got his culture in place. They saved some money from last year. They loaded up on this roster. I think this is going to be a sneaky team in the Big 12, and the schedule lines up beautifully. Got 7 home games, 3 out of the first 4 in the Big 12 at home. The one road game being in Ames at Iowa State, first-year head coach. The Mountaineers are a sleeper here in the Big 12, baby.
Yeah, look at that smile on his face. A lot of couches will be lit on fire, and a lot of opponents' buses will be tilted. I can promise you from experience, that's what they do there in Morgantown, Ryan. I appreciate you. I can't wait for college football. We're going to have final thoughts. That's next right here on Sports Grid. And I am so glad to see this here in Final Thoughts. Mike Rapoli, the vitamin water guy, is making a commitment to making sure that St. John's is going to be a national championship basketball program with all the money that he's going to start pushing into the program. This is absolutely sensational. Also, the co-owner of the UFL is saying that he is going to make sure that Rick Pitino and everyone there in Jamaica, Queens is going to have the opportunity to try to win a national championship and get some of the greatest college basketball players in the country to go to St. John's. This is exactly where college sports is going. It's called sugar daddies. If you got yourself a Mark Cuban, Indiana, you got one with Mike Rapoli. This is where college sports is today. All about the sugar daddies putting money into the program. I mentioned a guy earlier in the show, Sherwood Blunt. Sherwood Blunt will go down as one of the biggest villains in the history of college sports. He was the architect of the money that was given to the SMU guys where that sports program, that football program, was put on the death penalty. That was the guy that was paying all the kids. That was the guy that was getting all the funds for SMU. Funny, we see Sherwood Blunts today like Mike Rapoli, but now it's legal. And I'll go back and make this comment. I want to show you something here. Here's my Corvette right here when I was at the University of Miami. Let's show them guys. There it is. Look at that bad puppy there. Look at that baby there, man. Oh, look at Big Sil sitting there back in the day there, right there at the University of Miami's parking lot. I remember when Rick Riley from Sports Illustrated came down and was looking at that bad puppy. Then he saw 17 other cars like it in the parking lot. He said, holy cow, look at this, man. It's like a new car lot here. Me, of little means. How was I driving a Corvette around at the University of Miami? And when Jimmy Johnson asked me, and when people asked me, I said, I found it. And I found it under a tree. Because back then, that's all you could do is say you found it under a tree. Are you under the impression, like I said earlier, that college sports was not paying kids? And that college sports was not doing things? Barry Switzer came on this program and told you when he was the head football coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, it cost him 2 national championships because if a kid needed clothes or a kid needed money, he would open up his wallet and he would help the kid out. If a family wanted to come down and watch some of these kids, there was no problem. Now you've got this open and in the open in college sports today. I love the fans and I love people that are sitting there saying that college sports is going to be ruined by people like Mike Rapoli. No, college sports is exactly what's perfect for guys like Mike Rapoli. He's got a love of St. John's. He's got a love of winning. He's got a love of being a billionaire, and he's an alum of St. John's, and all he wants to see is that basketball program win a national championship. Hey, nothing's free in life. And if you want to pay for greatness, you pay for greatness. If you want to pay for mediocrity, you pay for mediocrity. That's exactly what these programs are now doing. Look, go around the landscape of all the big-time programs in college sports. Are you under the impression that Arizona or Illinois, who has now punched their ticket to Indianapolis, that those guys didn't maximize NIL? How about the Florida Gators? $22 million they spent on NIL alone and expenses for that college basketball program. Look at how much money Miami paid this past year for that football program, or Ohio State spending over $75 million in NIL to get players to go to Columbus. I got to tell you, I absolutely love where college sports is today, and it's about time. To hear people say that I'm going to be kicking money in and I'm going to be giving money to programs so that those guys can excel to win championships, I love the fact that it's in your face. And you think the president of the United States or some of these other guys are going to stop this process? This process has been going on for 100 years in college sports. The paying of athletes, do you think that's some sort of new wave of thing that's happening? You think it's about kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks? This is about commerce. This is about being in the open finally. This is about college sports finally having the onion peeled back. Hey, man, some of you don't like it because you were under some delusion, I should say, of college sports being amateur sports. It's not amateur sports. It's never been amateur sports. It's always been professional sports. But this is what we did before. Shh. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Hey, how did you get that 50 grand? I found it. Hey, the landscape of college sports is in a good place, and I can't wait to see what the future is. About time, too. The NCAA gets exposed. The only people that were making money were the NCAA. The only people that were making money were the coaches. The only people that were making money were the conferences. About time these kids started getting paid. They are employees of the institutions, and it's about time. We will catch you next week. Have a great Sunday. 2 teams left to get their tickets punched. We'll see you next weekend, and we'll catch you on the flip side. All right, welcome to